So with that, let me have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. Parvinder Maini, Scientific Secretary, Office of Principal Scientific Advisor. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. I kind of invite you to deliver your keynote. Thanks.
Panelists, participants, a very good afternoon. I think the panel discussion started much before I arrived. I was supposed to be the keynote speaker. I think I will try to tell things from my perspective, but he has already covered most of the points. So, of course, climate change, this has been happening. And for many, many years, we had been in a constant mode of denial that the climate change is not happening. But now it is there to stay, and we really need to address it. So now, to minimize the impact of climate change and reduce its carbon footprint, countries have made commitments to achieve carbon neutrality energy transitions. So the focus of government across the world is on renewables, and that means extracting energy from non-carbon sources. So of course, hydrogen has emerged as the most viable alternative for energy carriers. And of course, in that, the focus is all on green hydrogen. And this is the best agent for industrial decarbonization. So of course, I congratulate Vicky for organizing this summit and with a special session focusing on developing a sustainable green hydrogen ecosystem. Now, of course, this is the right time when India is positioning itself as a global hub for this export of green hydrogen. And here, let's see how India is having a unique position, and it's so well placed and self-sufficient in renewable energy sources. India, by virtue of its geographical position in the tropics, has ample sunlight. So we have a huge potential for solar energy. It has 750 million metric tons of biomass available every year. The vast coastline and big surrounding sea makes tidal energy and wave energy possible for us. In addition, we have a lot of geothermal energy in the Leh Ladakh region, we have in the Gujarat region, the eastern region. And then there is, of course, wind energy available at the western, south, and middle region, biomass energy in the northern region. So with this, India has actually emerged as an all-rounder for renewable energy sources. In other words, we have the conducive environment to carry this forward. And therefore, Government of India, of course, has launched the National Hydrogen Mission to make India the global hub for production, storage, usage, and export of green hydrogen and its derivatives. However, there are several challenges that come in this way. Now let us see the figures. India is looking at a production of at least 5 million metric tons of green hydrogen by 2030, with an additional focus on capturing 10% of the export market. For this, we need electrolyzers in the range of 60 to 100 gigawatts and an additional renewable energy capacity of 125 gigawatts. This is over and above the nation's RE target. Now, all this, of course, adds to the cost of production of green hydrogen. Now, as per the data, the levelized cost of green hydrogen production and storage is currently about 400 rupees per kg. Out of this, about 40 to 50% is attributed to renewable energy power plant, 30 to 40% to the electrolyzer stack, and 20 to 30% to the capital, supply and treatment of water, storage and distribution, and so on. So in order to gain export market share, India must be competitive vis-a-vis the other leaders, emerging supply hubs such as the Middle East, North Africa, Australia, Chile, USA, and so on. And for this, it's essential that we bring down the cost of green hydrogen. Now, this requires innovation in manufacturing investment in green hydrogen technologies and associated infrastructure, which has been, of course, spoken by Mr. Tripathi. Now, let us look at the different aspects. It's, of course, these are the 5-6 pillars, even which Mr. Tripathi also covered, but as I said, I will cover it from my perspective. The first is electrolyzer manufacturing. Now, in order to install a 60 to 100 gigawatt electrolyzer capacity by 2030, we require, of course, a domestic large-scale electrolyzing manufacturing system. For this, the demand uncertainty, investment risk, raw material availability, and intermittent renewable energy supply need to be addressed. Now, to address this ecosystem or to strengthen this ecosystem, we need to diversify the supply chain of platinum group metals and rare earth metals to ensure raw material availability. In addition to ensure availability of water, we need to deploy technologies for desalination and wastewater treatment. And in addition, the government, of course, has to introduce certain incentives to attract domestic and international players for domestic electrolyzer manufacturing. Now, the second aspect is, of course, hydrogen storage. Now, there are several associated with hydrogen storage, like the lack of indigenously developed Type 3 and Type 4 compressed hydrogen tanks, testing facilities as per international standards, lack of regulation standards, and raw materials for solid-state hydrogen storage. Of course, an option is the significant geological storage capacity that India has in terms of its deep saline aquifers and major sedimentary basins like the Krishna, Godavari, Kaveri, Cambay basins in India, with storage capacity of more than 22,600 terawatt hours. This is equivalent to about 35% of Europe's storage capacity onshore and offshore. Now, the third aspect is hydrogen transportation. As was already mentioned by Mr. Tripathi, we lack a dedicated hydrogen transportation infrastructure. And as most of our hydrogen is actually captive usage. To address these challenges, India can leverage its existing natural gas pipeline network spanning over 17,000 kilometers, with a blending at levels of 5 to 20%. Now, e-methanol is emerging as a promising low-carbon liquid fuel for maritime transport with hydrogen recovery through methanol electrolysis at the destination. Now, to support the growth and hydrogen-powered transport in India, we also need to develop proper infrastructure and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles and hydrogen refueling stations. Now, the fourth aspect is the market development for green hydrogen. Now, as per the Asian Development Bank, the green hydrogen market is likely to reach $10 billion by 2030 and $35 billion by 2040 for India. And studies predict that over the next 10-year period, the Asia-Pacific region will be the fastest growing market for green hydrogen. However, as we said, presently India has an underdeveloped market due to limited infrastructure, including energy grids and transportation networks. So in order to attract the market towards green energy, there is a need to incentivize the domestic market production and, of course, exports. For this, of course, MNRE has already rolled out 2 schemes on domestic manufacturing of electrolyzers and production of green hydrogen, of course, covered probably. Now, apart from this, specific incentives can also be provided for green hydrogen in derivatives like green ammonia, green steel, green methanol, sustainable aviation fuel. All this needs to be provided. And we can also provide certain tax incentives in the form of lower sales tax or lower tax on investment could help reduce the impact of the high capital cost. And we have examples in the USA and the European Union where they have doled out certain schemes for this. Now, another aspect that we look out is for innovating financing models that we can actually develop, where financial assistance in the form of grants and loans can be given. This can help the first movers cover the high investment costs of the newer technologies as well as more mature. And of course, later on, the graded financial support can also be provided. And as the market matures, financial assistance can be given, tax incentives can be given, and some kind of subsidies can be thought of. Policy change, that is the next aspect. If you are actually aiming to reach a delivered hydrogen cost of 80 to 100 per kg, we require binding policy commitments and a framework, a long-term framework to realize the potential. While economics is likely to become more favorable as the market matures, creation of demand in the initial years, suitable policy is the demand of the day. This can be achieved through suitable like demand aggregation, purchased obligation, viability gap funding, among others. Now, India is already a major destination for FDI in the clean power transition, but rising interest rates, foreign exchange risk, and high inflation are some of the challenges that this sector faces. Now, the sixth aspect is, of course, the export of green hydrogen. India, of course, has set up an ambitious target to produce green hydrogen by 2030, with 70% allocated export market and remaining 30% for domestic consumption. Currently, there is no export policy for green hydrogen, as was pointed out Mr. Tripathi too. So if India has to meet its target, then Government of India has to take out a policy at the earliest to incentivize the export of green hydrogen. Japan and Australia are already undertaking some steps towards this direction. And Australia has already kick-started a hydrogen export industry. Now, the last aspect I would like to say is international collaboration. This, of course, green hydrogen transition is happening all over the world, and more than 50 countries have launched their comprehensive roadmap and strategy in India. So India must establish strategic collaborations in all areas of green hydrogen development, including technology, financing, laws, trade, and policy. This is necessary given the international momentum in hydrogen. As a country, we must focus on collaborating with advanced economies such as EU, Australia, in the areas of technology innovation, R&D, and skill development. This will help us to understand the best practices all over the world and also increase institutional capacities and develop technical know-how. Now, at the recently concluded G20 Energy Transition Ministers meeting, there was a strong consensus to promote collaboration and global harmonization in the development of national standards and certification processes for hydrogen, for zero and low emission technologies. So, including derivatives like ammonia. And of course, they also spoke about fostering new business models. So this was an emphasis, there was an emphasis on ensuring free trade and fair trade as per WTO rules, supported by robust and diversified supply chain. So in summary, I conclude that India has a unique opportunity to become a global leader in the hydrogen energy ecosystem with proper policy support, industry action, market generation and acceptance, and increased investor interest. India can position itself as a low-cost, zero-carbon manufacturing hub, at the same time fulfilling its goal of economic development, job creation, and improved public health. And I'm sure the panel will further dwell on these topics. Thank you so much.